Yeah, you could do it in Zoom if you webinar, and then it has the feature, but not from a normal call. So I had to set up a webinar and then.
And yeah, and you connected with your channel.
Okay, I think that we are live here. Let me turn mute on there, and I'll give you the chat link here. All right. Let's share this out. Is that working for you, Birgit?
Yes. Yes, it's working for me fine. Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Let's hope so. Going to share the link out now. And I think we're live.
Okay.
Okay. So, first of all, a little bit 10 minutes behind schedule just because Joe, our normal host, is not here today. So he has power outage, and it seems like a high statistic that we have power outages between the two of us, only on the show. The rest of the time we seem to be fine. But I am very happy to have a co-host here with me, Birgit Polyhack, who is doing a lot on Gutenberg news and tracking that. So please say hi.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Zach, again to your show.
Thanks for being available last minute.
Well, the last time we did this was February 7th.
I was going to say, not your first time hanging out on the Gutenberg live show. No, right? And a lot's been happening since February, no?
A lot has been happening, yes. Good things, good stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I think the first thing that we could share is, I'm going to throw two links here. One is the WordPress 4.9.9. It's getting into the 9.9's release here. So throw that in the chat. And I mean, the thing, I guess, mostly to mention there is that Gutenberg is continuing to be an option that people are being notified out. There's some information about that there. And there's something else that I wasn't as familiar with, this site health project. Do you know anything about that? The Serve Happy?
Yes, that's the health check plugin that the support team came up with. So when you have trouble on your website, that you, as an administrator, can actually switch off plugins and test it without taking your website down. So that's a very good plugin to have. What I don't know is what they're doing with Gutenberg, but it's definitely a good thing to have when you test Gutenberg on your live site, which I'm a little bit weary about, but live a little, right?
Well, except when the undo process could be sloppy. So yes, it is a little weary that it's going live and not in staging, but cool. That is the health site project. That's the new latest thing there. And then I think we could probably jump. Oh, before we go further, let me say thanks to our sponsors here, Give WP. They're doing a ton in the community. We're going to talk a little bit about them later. Birgit, you know about Give, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they do some
right?
great. Yeah, I work with a lot of nonprofits, and they have some phenomenal, even if you don't use it, but you should use it, some phenomenal articles, not only on Gutenberg, but also for nonprofits on how to prepare for Giving Tuesday, for instance. Just, I think, released a blog on a template for Giving Tuesday landing pages. So that's very, very helpful.
Oh, cool. What? Yeah, always giving back. Great plug. Oh, that's so cool that you've worked with that. There's a plug right there. Go check them out, Give WP for sure. So thanks for making this possible. Checks in the mail, Birgit.
Absolutely.
So the next thing we have here is, of course, they're always iterating, still in that basically 2-week life cycle there of, here's the September 12th update on the latest version of Gutenberg. And I'm just going to kind of read through a few things, Birgit, if anything pops out to you. Well, let's start with full screen mode. Have you checked that out yet? That was one of the big ones. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think with full screen mode and the unified toolbar, it comes pretty close to a a very nice, clean workspace that doesn't distract anymore from all the blog things that are happening when you hover over things. So it's I think it's a very good addition to Gutenberg, and it works very well.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Gutenberg was kind of condensed and small, and there's a lot else there with something new, that has a psychological effect. So them rolling out that one, I'd almost want to see it bigger somehow, but CSS, y'all, and there are ways. And in this release, they do talk about ways to style it, and that is something they're paying attention to, how to make it easier for someone to, in a theme or a plugin, change the whole styles of it once it's opened, or even in that smaller one. So yeah, the full screen stuff, they added some UI for bulk managing reusable blocks. Reusable blocks are super cool, right? That you could change something once. So continuing to work on that. And then a link I'll throw in here on editor styles, which I was saying earlier, ways to customize it. And there are some interesting overrides and things like that. If you're already styling blocks, sometimes the style of paragraph tag isn't as simple as you think. You have to add like 2 editor classes to it and stuff like that. So that's something making it easier for folks, which is cool. You can follow all of that. Let's see here. The block setting menu, you mentioned that, some changes to the menu. You want to share a little bit more about that? Or?
Well, on the block settings menu, there are quite a few additions or things that you might not have seen yet. One is the keyboard shortcuts. There's a on the bottom of the menu is you can call up a model with all the keyboard shortcuts that you can use with Gutenberg.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. I like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are waiting for that quite a bit. And then the on top of the screen, you see the unified toolbar that has been around for, I would say, about a year, but it's now renamed. It's called it was called Fix Toolbar on top or something like that, and is now called Unified Toolbar. And then there's the full screen view. We talked about it, where it practically removes the WP admin pieces of it. And with the Unified Toolbar, you can kind of put it on top. And then there's the Spotlight view. And Spotlight view is very, very new. And what it does is it kind of only focuses on the current block that you're working on, and everything else is kind of dimmed, it's grayed out, so you can really focus on that one thing that you're working on.
And what are your thoughts on Spotlight? You like it?
I like it. I like it especially together because you can, all 3 things, you can put them together, is the unified toolbar, the full screen, and the Spotlight is, you don't even have to worry about any other blocks or something like that. You're not going to see them unless you really want to. And I think that's a great addition to the Gutenberg editor.
And I think you put it so well, and I'm so glad that you're sharing all of this with us, because they are making refinements, right? They locked down features a while back, but they're continuing to make it better. And each time, you give this design team a chance to make it better and make it better. It is making improvements. Still, I think probably a ways to go. You think still? But improving.
Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely a way to go. But I think the amount of feedback that they got from the now over 300,000 active installs of the plugin, and I think a week or 2 weeks ago, Automatic also started to roll out Gutenberg to WordPress.com people, users. So also that ton of feedback is really, really helpful. And I don't think we are yet done with locking down the API, well, probably the APIs, the external APIs, like for plugin and blocks API, but the interface, I think, is not yet completely locked down, because the before the 4.9.8 Gutenberg NAG came out, prompt on the admin came out, there were about 750 open issues on the Gutenberg repository in GitHub. Now we're up to 1,200. So, and yeah, so there is probably still a ways to go. Yeah.
Well, they were looking for thousands or tens of thousands or a million, right, before it's ever going to be rolled into core. So along the way, I threw in the link there to rolling out on .com. That's definitely a big thing. And like you said, features are more locked down, but still making UI refinements. along that way. I did throw in something here that was from the notes. They did do some refactoring of the DOM and how things are actually dragged and dropped. If you're into JavaScript and super nerdy, you can look at the source code for how they're doing that. They are rolling out their own solutions in some cases for the stuff that is kind of interesting. So threw that link in there. Let's see, anything else from this before we got some other news we can mention. Some deprecated stuff. Yeah, still evolving, still going on. The link's in there if you want to check it out. Continuing to evolve with what Gutenberg's got going. So let's see what we got next here in the lineup. Well,
have you seen, Zach, have you seen the new version come out, 3.9 yet? Or is it still in release candidate? That was supposed to come out today, I think.
No, it has not been posted.
Okay.
If it is out today, yeah, I was kind of waiting to see if it drops. So most of this is from officially 2 weeks ago, but a lot has happened since then, right?
Yeah.
Or no, I guess tomorrow would probably be more likely.
Yeah, they came out with a second release candidate, yes. Yeah, yesterday.
I got another cool thing. We're always talking ACF, and there was an interview, or I guess he did a live stream answering questions from ACF and the goals with it, and a super must watch if you're ACF. I mean, here I was thinking I was helping out the community, busting my butt trying to teach Gutenberg, and then ACF rolls out this beautiful block builder, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess nobody needs to know how to do that now. Not that that's the case, but for all the people who used ACF for solutions and were like, how am I going to build custom blocks and what's going to happen? You're going to keep using ACF. The migration path may be sticky. Not so sure there, but definitely starting scratch and going forward. Super cool. And got to give it to them, like keeping silent, getting work done, and coming out with a really beautiful solution. So I don't know, did you see some of this lately with ACF's rollout of blocks?
I saw the news and I saw some write-up about it that they did about a month ago, that it will come out, and they just released it. I did not get a chance as a ACF Pro 5.0, and I did not get a chance yet to test it out, but I'm so itching for it to test it on some of our sites where we use ACF and where we have been waiting to, or kind of postponing doing anything with Gutenberg, because we knew it was in the pipeline.
Hey, the plugins save us all, right? You've been waiting, and now if you haven't tested it yet, at least install the plugin and keep going from there. So,
right. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
There's another big name in the WordPress community that released some Gutenberg stuff, and that is Genesis, and saying, be cool, we got you. Did that go in? Yep. They put out an announcement that they are working on their themes updated, not just themes updated, but how to style different blocks and making sure that their themes are accounting for all that, which, as you imagine, there's dozens of different blocks. And so that's quite a bit of work, as well as some possible migration paths of trying to move content and designs that you would do a different way in the past. And so I think a lot of folks have been wondering, although I don't feel as nervous about whether their Genesis themes would make the jump. Luckily, a lot of this is just CSS with themes. They're not having to do something like ACF did from a development ways. But I don't know, do you ever use Genesis stuff, or have you seen, I mean, of course, there are themes talking about this, but.
Yeah, we have used Genesis almost exclusively for our customer work, as well as for some of the pro bono stuff that we do. And we have on one side, we started using Gutenberg in March or April. And on the Genesis theme, it just works out of the box. No problem at all. Just a few CSS adjustments, as you said. But of course, not the adjustments that there was no full width or align wide CSS yet, but we didn't use it anyway, so it wasn't too hard. But yeah, we're out of the box very easily to use any Genesis theme. I think we used one that was 2 years old or something like that. Yeah, well, very solid code. Yeah.
We're talking about the right news here. Then, if you're like, yeah, we use ACF, yeah, we use Genesis. I agree, solid code. I don't build sites often, but I do have licenses to all those, and have definitely used them for building stuff out. And I dig it. So let's mention another big one. This is the one I'm most excited about. I know Gutenberg is changing and evolving, and there's people who've been building cool blocks. But for me, it was this news that hit a while back about Gutenberg and Drupal. So at the DrupalConf, talking about Gutenberg as an open source editor. And I hadn't really honestly thought of this before. And it's cool to see their adoption. Somebody put out a funny tweet like, wow, it's funny, like the folks in Drupal are more excited about Gutenberg than WordPress is, and it's open source and they're already hacking on it. And particularly this Gutenberg cloud. I'm sure you saw the news, but basically a cloud service of blocks that you could use across that would work in Drupal, would work in WordPress. And it's just like this open source that, here you go, internet. Here's an editor for you to use all over. Now I know it has to be refined, but this is really exciting. Have you seen this stuff out there?
Yeah, I saw this, and I'm very excited about that because then what you could do. Well, the biggest problem I see right now for content creators is that they get all these different plugins, and some plugins come with 10 blocks, and one plugin comes with one block, and they get them all into this one interface and have this kind of overwhelmed feeling that where is this stuff? Yeah, and if you had a plugin that then goes out into this, the Gutenberg cloud, into the Gutenberg cloud, and just bring in the blocks that you wanted that are not in core, that would be just phenomenal. Yeah, writing that plugin would be. I'm not sure how hard it would be because I'm not as familiar with Node, and yeah, but with APIs it should be too hard to at least get a list in there, and then but what to do with the package that comes in and then has to do something on the server. So I'm a little bit fuzzy still, and I think the people at Gutenberg Cloud are still fuzzy on how it's actually work out. But I connected with Pierre-André from I forgot his last name. Sorry, Pierre-André, who did the presentation at Drupal Europe, and he said it's probably about 4 weeks out, several months out that a WordPress plugin comes in that kind of taps into the Gutenberg Cloud. But the website alone is already inspiring.
Yeah, I love it, and the vision of it, and that's cool that you reached out and got a little bit more information there, and that's cool to know. Because there is a difference between the Gutenberg editor and its WordPress plugin equivalent, as well as the Drupal hookup. But what we are living in is a time where this was built in a way that components are really reusable, and if you hook them up in the Gutenberg way, then you should be able to plug them in to WordPress and other stuff. So having a core repository that's just beautiful and well done and taken care of, I think could be really exciting going forward. And what type of integrations around that could be is really cool. I've been saying since early on that even just folks creating UI libraries and component libraries around this are going to be really helpful. So go Drupal for this. I know we got other news in the way, but anything else that you've come across? I know for folks who don't know, you're running a Gutenberg Times news site and getting out a lot of information, and the Twitter account is one that I follow. So what's come across your radar lately that it's been interesting?
Well, I have been testing 3.9 release candidate, and the first two things, and tonight I have a part in a local WordPress meetup, and we had for months on the topic reusable block. Yeah, how to use it for content creators, because I think that's one of the most exciting features that you cannot do with the old editor ever. And I liked it. And the first release notes that came, or information that came out of 3.9 was multiple blocks as reusable blocks. And so you can now have a headline, a little image, and a call to action all in one block, and then reuse that on your site over and over again. Yeah, or for nonprofits, if you have a donation button that goes to your donation page, and you also need, for Florida at least, have a little disclaimer from the Florida Consumer Protection Agency, and put that together, and you can put it on every page, or every landing page at least. And every time, and that's until now you had to kind of put multiple blocks together in the reusable blocks and then assemble that. Now you can do the whole thing. And that's really, really interesting. Yeah, and I tested it. At the moment, it doesn't work well with embedded, but there is a fix on the way, because I can see that you can have a landing page with in the video and the donate button, or sign up for my courses, or so I was really excited about that, but I really had to scramble to get ready for tonight. Yeah, and it's if it releases today. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement, because before I was doing a hack of making a column and then editing it to be one column wide and throwing them in there and then duplicating that. But yeah, I could select, and that is a big difference and improvement. Nice. Cool. I like that.
Nice, yeah. Yeah. And what else came along? Hang on.
While you're looking, I'll throw in the Hemingway theme. More themes are coming out with Gutenberg support, and even .com has announced that they're starting to work on adding it to their hundreds of themes that they have access to.
Yeah, so what I also find quite interesting is what Yoast SEO are doing. They have released with the plugin, with an 8.2 version of the plugin, 2 additional blocks. One is an FAQ block where you can have your question and answers on one page, of course. And then the other one is the how to do. And both blocks are expertly semantically coded. So Google will pick those up as a little snippet on, if somebody posts that question, it's so coded that it could pick up your answers or your how-to steps into this little cards that come up on a Google search page.
Very cool, Yoast. Nice.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Well played. Yeah, any of those where you can add in the semantic markup and so that it's recognized is definitely a huge asset, and should be kind of a standard. So that's cool that they know about that. Or well, not that, I hope that the people who use Yoast know that that's an option and way to do things, because there's definitely ways of marking stuff up, right? Nice
Right. Yeah, and well, I'm glad that it comes with a plugin, so I don't have to go out for another plugin to get the 2, because Yoast I install anyway. Yeah, so yeah. That's really cool. Yeah.
But it does raise that question of like, do you even know what blocks might be there? But the / and then start typing the name of a block is pretty cool. I do like the shortcuts. Those are helpful, as you mentioned before, the screen to pull them up.
Yeah, that philosophy, or I don't know how you call it, but it's a philosophy. New line, your command line, where you then can say, okay, it's a / I get a new block. Is it a hash? It's a heading. If I do a bracket, I do get a quote. And yeah, these content creation shortcuts are so wonderful now, thought out. I really like them.
Yeah, super cool. It's getting better. The UI is improving. It's improving. And, just to randomly speculate on dates, for a while, folks were like, oh, it's going to be middle of the year now. And then, the summer at some point. And they have gotten to feature complete and are wrapping on the design and testing, which is great, right? They know it's not ready for launch yet, but I've even heard into next year, where is that WordCamp New York, and like March, Q1, Q2 next year. So who knows when it's done.
So what's your estimate when the first beta version comes out of 5.0?
I mean, I feel I've been saying for a while, I feel like October would be pretty impressive from even just like starting earlier this year. I have no idea, though, although as time passes, I begin to think, okay, well, it'll really just happen when it does, and all the feedback won't be bad. But I'm glad that it's not like being pushed out now, right? Just because to keep on a timeline of, well, we finished the features, just get it out there. They are testing it and getting feedback. So, yeah. How about you? Any inside scoop you got?
I have no insights. I have a whole rant on my the Gutenberg Times about when is it coming out, being the FAQ, kind of the most asked question, the MAQ. But I said, well, I don't know. Nobody knows. But I speculate that we probably see a first beta version mid-November, just and Matt Molenbeek, whose State of the Word is coming out with WordCamp US, has a few things to tell us about. And then it will be beta 2 probably still in December, and then beta 3 somewhere end of January, because there's this whole time of everybody being on holiday and not coming back until mid-January. So it's going to be, and I think March is certainly not a bad, it's as good as I guess as anybody's, but March is not a bad from my point of view, but yeah, who knows? I don't have any insights in if they have internal planning or that way, but yeah.
Yeah, you do raise a good point, though. I bet Matt would love to say something positive about it coming along and testing and who it's been in front of and what's happening. You know, I don't know if released, but yeah, cool. Well, there you have it, folks. The official Gutenberg live show speculation on release. Other news that's come across you, you know, I've kind of thrown out most of mine. Like I said, if Joe was here, miss you, buddy. What's up with the internet? They're trying to hold back, you know, the Gutenberg live show. Can't be done. Other stuff across?
Well, I have there's some other, a lot of blocks are now developed. I used a VR image block on my private blog where I did in Belgrade in WordCamp Europe. I went to the new Orthodox church, which was totally under construction, but the crypto was already finished, and it has these wonderful mosaics. And I did a 360 picture of it, and the VR image block really works. There's I put the link in. I'll send you the link. Hopefully I get it somewhere. But I found this really amazing blocks. Then there's another. On the Gutenberg Times, I just updated, had my 85th update since June 2017. And there are two new blocks in there. One is a double image Gutenberg block, where you can actually have two images in a block. And the other one is what a lot of us are waiting for, is a syntax highlighting for editing and displaying code in Gutenberg. So there are two blocks on that came out in the first version. Both of them actually hosted on GitHub repository right now, because I don't think they're entirely finished, but they would definitely appreciate a few feedback if the viewers kind of want to check them out.
Cool.
I can put the link.
Is cool.
Yeah. So do we have any questions?
No, that's good. Yeah, always good to know what new blocks are coming out. Now is kind of the era of it, right? If you have block ideas, get them out and refined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Can you? I wanted to put the link in, but I'm somehow in the chat. Is that a different chat that I can put them in? Or?
Here, you should be able to throw them. If you throw them in ours, I could throw them in. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah. So
coming into the chat. There we go.
So I'm okay. Excellent. So that. So what else? What have you working on? I know you finished your Gutenberg theming development course, and I'm in it. It's phenomenal. Thank you so much for putting it together. Also, Joe has his part in it. So what are you seeing from developers? What are the biggest struggles that a lot of theme developers have?
Theme developers, none. Plugin developers, block developers, it's getting to understand this data API, because the course I did is good on building a block, but once you get into getting dynamic data and making API calls, if you're not familiar with Redux, it could be a little tricky how that goes. So I'm hoping after WordCamp US, like December, by the end of the year, want to get out an advanced Gutenberg one that will get into all that stuff in more depth. I'd love to do it sooner, but I'm running a boot camp at the moment. So I do not have the load to do an extra course, but as soon as that's over, I'm going to start working on that, because I think that that'll help, and then they'll really be able to get the full grasp of not just folks can get how to build a block, but then how to hook in everything and do extra stuff with it. So there was another thing actually you reminded me. Pull up this link. Mike McAllister, who has been working on the atomic block stuff, shared out an article. Here we go. Throw this in. Shot there. So one of the problems with blocks is that if you make a change, the other problem people have is that it breaks your old block, and that's a huge problem. So there is a deprecated feature in Gutenberg where basically you copy your old block code and paste it into a deprecated, and then you could have a bunch of different versions of deprecated, and that'll prevent it. It is a little laborious code-wise, but he did an article on how to do this, which I got to update my course with, the one that's out now, because that's kind of important. Dynamic blocks are the other one, not to get too nerdy here, but if you code your block half in JavaScript, half in PHP, then it doesn't matter what's saved, and you can make any changes, and it'll pull it all in dynamically anyway. So that's a pretty good article out there that he did.
One of the, I think I have been testing a few block plugins, and there are things that. One was talking about best practices when you kind of think out to lay it out and think about your end users. What is your idea or your take on extending an existing block or default block versus creating your own? What do you think?
I think it depends. The hooks aren't super available to take an existing block and just tweak it, like add this field here to it. But what you can do are rebuild most default blocks pretty easily using the exact same components. So you kind of like, not exactly copy and paste their code, but you pull in the same little components, which is a component in the React code is one little tag. It looks like HTML, except it says media uploader instead, and you add a few settings. So it's not hard to rebuild this stuff. So at this point, my understanding is build a new version of what you want. And then in your PHP, you could say blacklist the old core version of it and don't show that and show yours instead. So kind of a multiple step there, but that's what it is. Now, some simple stuff like CSS changes and things, you could do that, but really extending it. But that's the way things are built. And that's actually cool because all the components to build everything in Gutenberg, you could just drag and paste it in and build your own thing with it. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, the extensibility, there's also a chance I'm completely wrong and I've just missed something in documentation. I always have to throw in that caveat, but not that I've seen of yet.
Yeah, it kind of bubbled up on me when I was so excited that I found on my, sorry, I'm starting 3 times, but on my Gutenberg Times, when I do the updates, I have sections where I have a table of contents on the top and people can just jump around to the various section. One is Gutenberg development, one is new blocks, the other one is using Gutenberg. So for every audience there, and it was a pain to do this by hand, kind of have a new anchor for the headline, then going up and put the link together. So I found a block where it was automatically done. And that's really cool. And then I found, so I used it, and I was done with my post, so I didn't realize it before. But when I started my next post, I was not able, it overrode the paragraph block with some other specific, and I wasn't able to use all the settings anymore. And I was kind of disappointed because I like actually what I can do with the paragraphs right now. So if you are if you are thinking about putting a plugin together for the whole world to see and for every Gutenberg person to use, don't override the default blocks. It's a very interesting experience because the only way for me to get my original blocks back would be to disable the plugin and get the other features lost as well. So yeah, I'm a little bit sad by that, but I'm interested that I run across that.
Well, that's really super related. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, if you're doing this unsuspectedly, and plugins have a lot of control over what blocks are displayed and all of that, as well as do themes. So we are going to raise some potential opening points where people can do something that is unexpected. And you're like, WTF? And that's
Yeah.
plugin. And it also raises this thing of like, can we have an easy to find block source and we just grab what we need without knowing that other stuff is happening and what's going on? But if you're listening, don't do that, okay? Or at least warn someone, or who knows? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
But I'm glad that folks are building blocks, and you're like, hey, I need a block for this, and there's already, some solutions out there. A whole new block world. Yeah.
Yeah. So from your perspective, if there were a review site on blocks, what would be some criteria to look at on a kind of good blocks, bad blocks, or the good, the bad? No, the good. What's it? The good. What's the show? The good, the bad, and the ugly, or something like that. Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the blocky.
Good, the bad, and the brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that's tough. I mean, at a code level, at the code level, there are some things. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, my real reaction, it's not answering your question at all, but my response is that I think we still need to see an evolution of all the blocks and find a way to find them all. And as more come out and standards, like that stuff you were talking about overriding, like, I think we're still kind of finding out exactly what are the preferences and how it's done. And like, then we see some really slick designers design something like, oh my gosh, this should be a standard for blocks, right? I like how this works. So I don't know yet, except I just like seeing these repos and collections of them so that you can, and following you so that I could see what's happening and coming out and check it out and kind of understand as I go.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the depreciation of blocks. Yeah, if you change a block, then you have to put this into your code, because
that's something I would look for too, is like, are they following that? But then you'd have to like look in the source code, which is minified and might be hard to detect, but it should. Yeah.
Well, you just need to, if you have a previous version, I think that's have a previous version if you want to test it. Yeah, have a previous version of the plugin and then create the block and then have the new version and see what happens with a change block.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We got any? I think we got time for one more news piece if you got it. Otherwise, I think we're doing pretty good here on covering the GBs for this 2 weeks here.
Tickets are available for WordCamp US, but it's not
really?
a Gutenberg. It's not a Gutenberg.
Well, didn't you hear the Gutenberg rumor that Gutenberg will be launched at WordCamp US while we're all sitting in our seats? We'll get a notification that 5.0 has been automatically implemented on all of our sites, and they'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, and ambulances are on standby for all the heart attacks, right?
Oh man, it's
that's great fun.
There we go.
Yeah.
Ended on a laugh. Hey, Birgit, I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing, including coming on the show this week. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Zach. I learned a lot from you. It's has been phenomenal.
And Joe, our co-host, who is not here right now, may the electricity come back and the interwebs so that next time he's here with us. And Birgit, I'm sure that you will be on again, possibly even again before Core comes out, depending on when that is, right?
Well, and, I have a Gutenberg Live for content creators on Friday next week, 2 p.m. On the Gutenberg Times video channel. So if you're a content creator and you want to join me and you want to kind of have a little session with your anxiety, get your anxiety taken care of, yeah.
Good.
I'm still looking for a guest there. So I'm thinking about a publisher who has, where the team has already kind of moved over, and that would be really interesting. But yeah, stay tuned.
Good. Yeah. Check out GutenbergTimes.com. Follow them on Twitter. Check all of that out. Again, thanks to GiveWP, the #1 resource for donations, nonprofits. Check out their articles. Check out their add-on extensions. We've talked a lot about them. GiveWP, great folks, and doing a lot for WordPress as well, especially with this Gutenberg transition. So to all y'all out there, happy Gutenberg, and hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time.
Bye.